Bulldogs, are you motivated?
Yes, sir!
Are you how motivated?
Yes, sir!
How motivated?
Coach Steve Simmons. When I think of Coach Steve Simmons, I think of a rock, I think of a Marine, I think of a disciplinarian, I think of a teacher, I think of a father figure, and I think of a great friend. But I can't say enough about Coach Simmons. When I do know that Coach Simmons expects you to do your best. He expects that out of parents, and he expects it out of your student, your child. And when I first started to work with Coach Simmons, it was my very first full-time job. I didn't know what he expected. I didn't know what my job entailed. But I soon learned that Coach Simmons expected me to read his mind. He wanted me to know what to do before it was time to do it. And we had good days, and we had sad days, and we had funny days. And I'd like to tell a couple of funny stories. One of them is a second grade child was out. He didn't follow directions too well, and he was on the playground, and Coach said, "If you don't start following directions, I'm going to put you on rock detail. Do you know what rock detail is?" And the little boy looks up at him and says, "No." And he says, "Rock detail is when I give you a bucket and I send you all over the playground and you have to pick up rocks." And he looked at him, he looked up at Coach and says, "Can I keep them?" Of course, he was trying to do that for a disciplinary action, and Steve looked at me and I went, "Oh," right over his head. But we got a big laugh out of it. Another time was, one of my funniest times was when we used to do milk break with all the kindergarten kids. And Steve would say to have them open their milk and drink their milk. Well, when one child comes up with something, all of them start coming up. And they were saying that day, "Coach, my milk tastes funny. Oh, Coach, my milk tastes funny." He'd say, "No, it's fine, go sit down." Well, at the end of class, he says, "Okay, kids, look here." And he opens the milk carton and he gulps the whole thing down. And then as he says, "Okay, you're dismissed," and I let him out the door, and as the door closed behind the last student that walked out, he grabs his throat, jumps off his chair and says, "What? That milk was terrible, it was bad." So we've had a lot of fun times and a lot of things to laugh about. But I told Steve Simmons, I think if you ever tell those kids something wrong, I'm going to report you. And he looks at me kind of funny, and he says, you know, like, "Why?" And I said, "Because I think those kids would follow you off a cliff if you told them to do so." Why? Because they trust him. He's a very trustworthy person, and I think they would follow him off a cliff. However, I never, ever had anything to report like that. Coach Simmons always told your kids and mine the right things to do. He taught them respect. He taught them honesty. He taught them how to share. He taught them to be kind to each other. He taught them to be a team and work together. And he taught them to be a Howe Bulldog. Most of you that have a child that started kindergarten know that Coach gave every class a name, and they carried that name throughout until they graduated. Like the Star Division, the Rocket Division, the Anchor Division, and the Hammer Division. Those are names that he didn't give them on the first day. He studied these kids, and he looked at them and saw what they represented. And so he named the Star Division because they were like shooting stars. They were going to be out there and shine for him. He named the Rocket Division like you're going to the top. And he named the anchor division, like, you're going to hold down the fort for me. You're steadfast and you're strong. He loved your kids and my kids. And I wonder sometimes, why did he do it? Why did he do all these things? Well, he taught school and was a coach because he loved our kids. And he wanted to teach them the right thing to do. And he wanted to make a difference in their lives. I truly believe that Coach Steve Simmons is the wind beneath the wings of a lot of little kids, a lot of teenagers, a lot of young adults, and even some of us grown-ups. He's helped a lot of us fly high. This is a little poem that he wrote years ago, and I had one of his students, Ashley Kaiser, he illustrated it for me after I gave him a sketch. But it says, children and trees. Children are like trees. They start out very small, but with firm strings of love and direction, they grow to be very tall. And if you can see, the sun shines. It gives effort and love and time. Here they're growing. And he attached strings of encouragement and love and direction, and they grow up to be tall. And then if they do, they're going to grow to be good apples. And they're going to be honest, and they're going to be hard working, and they're going to be respectful and have good attitudes. That's what Steve Simmons believes in. So I say to the Howe Elementary, or the Howe Independent School District, I say, you are losing a good teacher and a coach, but you'll never lose that Coach Simmons Bulldog spirit. I want to say to Coach Simmons that I want you to enjoy your retirement. I want you to enjoy that new grandbaby. And I want you to know, and I think you already know this, but you have a very special place in my heart. I loved working with you, and I still love you bunches. So happy retirement, Coach Simmons.
As a Bobcat, well, he lived and breathed sports, no doubt about that, which I was very involved in sports, and so I enjoyed that. Although he wasn't a girls coach, he was a motivator, but no doubt. And discipline was, I would say, his middle name. You know, he began to be interested in the military, and so he went into the military while I don't know if I was in junior high when he did that, or if I was like a freshman, but we remember it. And when we would go into our classroom in junior high, what I remember is when the bell rang, you were to have your book open to this certain page, and I think typically he had it written on the board, so you know there was that lag time. You'd have the page number, if I recall, written on the board. You were to have your book open to that page number, your hand on your book just like this, your other hand down to your side, and you were to be sitting straight when that bell rang, and you were to say nothing. Now that sounds he was very disciplined, but he was very loving and soft too. So he could have a stoic face, but then he would grin at you in the same scene, I guess. So tough, but teddy bear too, and so very loving stories that he would tell. One history lesson, we went into this yard of this old dilapidated house that was right adjacent to our school, and we had a history lesson right there in that yard. Now, unfortunately, I can't remember the history lesson, Coach Simmons, so I'm sorry. I guess it didn't stay with me, but I remember, it was something about, if this house could talk, it was something about history with the house. I do know that, and but it was a memorable thing that we did that. And the other thing that I guess I remember is that when he moved to Texas, evidently, of course, he was a Georgia Bulldog, and when he moved to Texas, he thought that because you were in Texas, everybody wore cowboy hats and boots. And I remember him telling that story many times about how he had to have his boots and cowboy hat. And so his parents spent all this money, on these two things. And when he got there to that school, and he thought he was going to be dressed like everybody else, and he was like junior high age, I think, or something, where that's such a big deal as far as how you look to others. And he peers or whatever, and he got in that school and they had on their, you know, Nike tennis shoes and whatever, so he kind of, I think, wanted to lose the cowboy boots pretty quickly because it wasn't exactly what he thought. But anyway, just a loving person and near and dear to my heart and my husband's, and yeah, he'll always be a Bobcat to me, but I know he's been a Howe Bulldog a lot longer. So.
You know, Coach Simmons was always a storyteller. And the thing I remember about, especially class, is there were certain people in class, not me, of course, but certain people would try to get him to tell a story. You know, they may bring up a subject like Herschel Walker or blue suede shoes or something like that, and then he would get off on a tangent. And I think it was the goal of some people to get him off on that tangent, because once they got him rolling, then, you know, they could obviously not have to do schoolwork. So I remember that. I met Coach Simmons when I came to Salina. I was in the 8th grade, so that was in like 83, I guess, time frame. I remember we had after school football workouts, and so we had to get on a bus at the school, and we would transport over to the football field. And I remember he would drive the bus, so we'd file out of the school, get on the bus, sit down, and it was silence. It was like no talking, no words, nothing. As you just rode that, you know, 2 or 3 mile down the road, where all you heard was the shifting of the gears, and in your mind was just like, oh no, dread, you know, what's going to happen? I got to go to football practice. I remember it was I think it was that year that he decided that he was going to join the Marines, and he was at the age where he was barely able to get in. I think 29 was the year, the cutoff of the age, and so we thought he was crazy for doing it. But the worst part was that two-a-days that we had right after he got back. So I remember driving into the football field to park to come into the first day of two-a-days and seeing Coach Simmons standing on the field. He was the only one on the field, but he was standing there and he had his hat on and he was ready to go. And it was, needless to say, we learned a few new drills. But one of the cool things, you know, I've really grown to appreciate Coach Simmons, and not just as a coach for the discipline that he instilled in us, the values, you know, leading FCA and all that, but even after high school, when we went to college, there were times when me and my roommate would go to his house on a Monday night, and whether we were invited or I don't remember if he invited us or if we invited ourselves, but I'd like to think he invited us. But we would go over to watch Monday Night Football at his house, and, you know, have popcorn and just socialize and have a good time. And I mean, you know, so he cared about us not only you know, as athletes, as in school, but after school and the rest of our lives, just being involved in our lives, and you know, and letting us share in his life. So we just love you, Coach Simmons. Congratulations on your retirement. You deserve it, and best of luck in everything that you do from here on out.
What comes to mind when I think Coach Simmons is a lot of passion, a lot of heart for kids, for people in general, and definitely for the Howe Bulldogs. I have a lot of fond memories of him, a lot of motivation there. I remember riding in a pickup with him one time to the football field, just he and I, and the things he talked about to me I still remember today, and have always been a motivating factor to me. And he's just the kind of guy you hope that your kids someday run across and get to be coached by, and get that passion from, and the drive and the push. And whether it's in a ball game or whether it's in a PE class or whatever, he's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime guy that, we were real fortunate to come have through here, Howe, and I was very fortunate to come through my life.
I've been thinking about it, and like my husband's a coach and I'm a teacher, and there's a lot of reasons that we do what we do, and there's a lot of skill and technical aspects to our job, and there's a lot that Coach Simmons did right as a coach. But that's not what any of us talk about. We always talk about how much he loves us, right? And now that I'm a parent, I know that I've learned that if someone loves my kids and I've got their back, right? If you genuinely love my kid, then I'm on your team. And if that's the case for most folks, I would imagine, then how many hundreds and hundreds of parents does Coach Simmons have on his side? How many of us have his back? And how many of our parents have his back? And I just imagine that there isn't a need that he or his family have that our community couldn't meet, right? That's our privilege going forward as he transitions out of a service role, that maybe it's our turn to start loving back on him. He's in a job where what we know is his fuel and his and the drive behind what he does is not something he can publicly proclaim at his job. He can't say, I'm here because of Jesus. I'm fueled by Christ. He can't say that, but it's not a question. There's not a kid in that school that doesn't understand that Coach loves us because Coach loves Jesus. And Coach loves Jesus because Jesus loves us. And that's not a sermon that I've ever heard him preach, but I know that that's what he believes. Coach, we're highly motivated, truly dedicated, rough, tough, can't get enough Howe Bulldogs. Rough.
Coach Simmons, just want to say to you and on behalf of myself and all of my family, especially my boys, what you mean is support for this community, strength for our families, encouragement for our children to get their education, and above all, discipline in a very loving way. You're an amazing guy, and we are appreciative of your efforts for the community. God bless you, and may you enjoy many more happy days upon this earth.
A truly amazing teacher is hard to find, difficult to let go, and impossible to forget. Coach, to the world you may be just a teacher, but to me, the town, and the students of Howe, you are a hero. I am Erin Melson Ingram, class of 2005, Aero Division.
I've been blessed in my life as a student and as an adult to be around a lot of really great educators, but Coach Simmons is hands down the best I've ever seen. He has a positive impact on every kid that's ever been in his PE class or that he's coached in any sport, and he goes beyond that and has a positive impact on every person that he comes into contact with. It's not easy to do what he does every day. In fact, I'd say that it's really rare to find someone who goes to work with the work ethic and passion and toughness that he does every single day. Everybody who's ever received a headbutt from him while you're wearing your helmet knows that he's a really tough guy. Hal's not going to be able to replace Coach Simmons, but Coach, we wish you the absolute best in your retirement. And it was a blessing for you to be able to be around our community for as long as you had. Go enjoy your family.
Hi, Dad. Happy retirement. We love you and we wish you the best. And I can't wait for you to spend a lot of time with Violet because she's moving around fast and it's hard to catch her. But just a few little things that I thought about is that you have a couple of people that they've won state championships maybe, and there's a few people who have maybe won some awards here and there, but there's not many people who can say that they're a father of a city, and that's exactly what you are. You're the father of Howe, Texas. You've raised a lot of kids, and you raised them the right way, and you made them great. And you made me great, hopefully, but the one thing you've done, you've showed me how to raise a daughter, and I'm raising her the best of my ability just based off of a lot of things that I saw from you and my mom. So we love you. We appreciate you. Remember, like I said, you can win many awards, but who can say they're a father of a city? And that's something you can say. Once again, we love you. Have a great retirement.
This guy came here in 1987 as a coach, and he's leaving here as a legend. I was in 8th grade when he got here, and I met this highly motivated guy. He was a Marine, and he was rough, and he was tough, and you can tell by looking at him. And he was drenched with pride. In 1989, I learned his passion. I was sitting right here, and he told us that if we beat Van Alstyne to win district, we'd get to shave his head. And we did. And it never grew back. That's how big of a win that was. But it was that same year I learned of his compassion as well as his passion. As a football player, we had no idea he did anything else other than coach football. But he was working all day with the elementary school. And we had no idea. We showed up for an all-school pep rally one time just like this. And I was sitting right there on the floor. And he walks in and he raises his hand. And the elementary school goes nuts and they scream. And he starts his chant. And at that point I got goosebumps like you've never seen before, and I realized this guy's special. He's got something. There's something about this guy, and he's been doing it for 30 years. His motivating nature has inspired a couple of thousand kids. His first division, class of 1995. He's also inspired a lot of adults, and he's changed this city to a bunch of people that are highly motivated and truly dedicated. Perhaps no one in Howe's history has held so much pride and love for their community and the children of this town. He has served as the elementary physical education instructor for Howe ISD for nearly 30 years. As well as his work with children, he's also been a coach on the varsity football team. He's coached powerlifting, basketball, baseball. He's done everything that they've asked him to do here for the Howe ISD. It is only a matter of time before something in this town is named Steve Simmons something. His enthusiasm is contagious. His pride is unmeasurable. His love is uncomprehendable. And his faith is unquenchable. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Simmons.